to start there. Okay, but before we start, I do want to talk about what happened in the House of Representatives yesterday. Okay, so unless you're still under that rock. Oh my God.
You got impeached again.
President Trump was impeached for the second time yesterday. And as your government teacher, I feel like I should at least address it, okay? Now, as you will learn in this class, that impeachment means only to formally accuse somebody of a crime. This is now the fourth time in American history that a president has been impeached, and for the first time in American history, a president has been impeached twice. Okay, now, as you know, today is the 14th, and President Trump has 6 days left on in his presidency. Okay, Mitch McConnell is still in charge in the Senate. Now, once Biden and Harris take over, Harris will become the president of the Senate, and the Democrats will have the majority, 51 to 50. Okay, she's the tie-breaking vote. Okay, so Mitch McConnell said, well, and I read an article on this morning. So the first impeachment of Andrew Johnson took like 78 days or 81 days or something. Okay, Bill Clinton's took like 54 days or something. Trump's first impeachment took 21 days, the trial in the Senate. Okay, Mitch McConnell said, we can't do a trial. I mean, the president has a right to defend himself. He has lawyers there. You know what I mean? He has an opportunity to build a defense because he's being charged with citing an insurrection at the Capitol. Okay, inciting one. Okay, so he has a right to defend himself, and you need time to build a defense for that. Yes, there needs to be an investigation. What happened just a week ago? The investigation is still ongoing, but they went ahead and impeached him anyway. Okay, why? Because they don't like him. It's politics. Okay, what was some of his rhetoric? I don't know. Divisive. Yeah, he didn't call on people to go storm the Capitol. Okay. I was reading on Twitter this morning that CNN is reporting that this was a planned thing, not by Trump, but there were people there that planned this ahead of time. It wasn't like his speech over at the White House that he was still giving when they broke into the Capitol. Okay, he had 20 minutes left in his speech when they broke it through the Capitol. Okay, so look, politics, division. Yes, we're divided. We were talking about this last hour. You know what Joe Biden could do? Because they could probably, once the Democrats take over the Senate, they could probably hold the impeachment trial anyways, even though Trump's gone. You know what Biden could do? He could pardon Trump. If he wanted to get off to a really good start with like the half of the people that didn't vote for him, if he pardoned Trump, and that would give that guy some props, at least from the people in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, this is what Ford did for Nixon. Nixon resigned. Okay, in disgust. You know, it was, Ford pardoned him. Said any crimes that Nixon may have committed during his presidency, he has a pardon. Now, I'm not saying Trump's committed any crimes. Okay, but he could pardon him of any crimes he may have committed. Yes.
So, what would be the purpose of them continuing with the investigation after Trump is the president?
Of the insurrection at the Capitol?
But that investigation, I understand, but once it's impeached, taking him to the Senate, what would be the purpose in that? Because isn't it just to
It's not going to serve any purpose.
Yeah.
Now, and constitutional experts disagree as to whether, say, Trump wanted to run in 2024, which I think is a really bad idea because it's too old. Okay, we would go from the oldest president we ever had in Joe Biden to the oldest president we ever had in Trump in 2024. Okay. I remember the media made a pretty big deal about John McCain's age when he ran against Obama. He wasn't as old as Joe Biden was. Well, John McCain didn't use email. It's like, no, other people do that. I don't know how to use email. I have other people do that for me. So. And they bashed him on it. You know, I mean, then, you know, made him tell him he's too old.
There's a congresswoman from Georgia who tweeted out last night. She said, on January 21st, 2021, I'll be filing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's a woman, female, new member of Congress. Yeah. That's silly. It will go nowhere. But, yeah. No, don't be surprised, though, if Republicans, if they get back in power in 2022, will impeach Biden. Okay, because really, it's only happened, 3 times in 150 years. And now, with Clinton and Trump twice, it's happened 3 times in the last 30 years, 25 years. It's meant to be a rarity. You know what I mean? The impeachment. It's the state of our politics. Okay. Hey, look, we're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Things will be fine. I'll teach you about the filibuster. Okay? In the Senate. Okay? As long as we have a filibuster, everything will be okay. All right. Let's talk about this. Okay, this 24 issues, okay, we're going over, all right? Now, we're going one at a time, right? Because you don't know everything you need to know about these. You don't have the context to make a decision, yes or no, yet. You have to wait for me. The longer it takes for me to get through this, ladies and gentlemen, the longer it is before I start lecturing and you start taking notes. Because you don't have to take notes over this. All you have to do is sit back, listen, learn, and then answer yes or no. Now, yes or no is going to be difficult for some of you. You like to be on the fence. You're like, oh, I don't know. This is really hard. Yeah, you know who you are. So I put over to the side reasoning or qualification. So let me give you an example. Abortion. So you've heard, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying you've probably heard it. I'm against abortion except in the cases of incest or rape. You ever heard that? So if it would make you easier to say yes, eliminate abortion, and then you can write over here to make you feel better about it. Okay? You guys can do that. I am not going to look at these. These are for you, not for me. You understand? This is to show you where you fall in the political spectrum in this country. Okay? Am I a right-wing wacko? Am I a socialist? Bordering on a communist? Or am I a mainstream Republican? A mainstream Democrat? Or worse yet, in the middle? A moderate. Okay. Get off the fence, right? Pick a side. Holy cow. All right, so let's get started. Abortion, guys, if I had to ask a group of people that have been high school, Catholic school students for 12 years about abortion, and you couldn't answer that on your own, then we failed. I'm not looking at this. This is for you, not for me. Okay, so you put down what you think. I'm not going to talk about this one. Okay, you guys know more about this stuff probably than I do. Although I know. Okay. All right, number 2, let's go to affirmative action. All right, now listen. Affirmative action was created with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And what the affirmative action tries to do is combat, improve, help, aid, bolster minorities in this country to overcome past oppression and current discrimination in this country. Now, we have a long history of discrimination in this country, as most countries do. Okay? Now, we are not alone in this. Slavery. Yes? Women. You didn't get the right to vote until 1920. You did not have a say in your government. You did not choose your representation, your representatives. Jim Crow laws. of the 20th century. Late 19th or 20th century. Okay? Discrimination was allowed, protected. Discrimination was protected. Okay? So, there's 3 areas where we see affirmative action today. Okay? The first I'm going to talk about is education. Now, before I go any further, we have to figure out in the United States of America in 2021, who is considered a minority or what groups of people are considered minorities in the United States of America. So give me a group of people. African Americans. Give me another one. Asian Americans. Sometimes. I'll explain. Give me another one. Arab Americans. Give me another one. Latino Americans. Come on. What about Eskimo Americans? Yes. What about Pacific Islanders? You know, people like from Guam or American Samoa? Yes, minority. What about Italian Americans? No. What about Polish Americans? No. Sorry, this just popped into my head. Hoji. Where does that come from? Italy. Okay. Just curious. It's just like I was thinking last names. And okay. All right, now, the largest group of minorities in this country, considered minority by law, are women. Doesn't matter what color you are. All women are considered minorities in this country. Okay. So the fact is, the majority is a minority, and the majority is white men. Okay? Every president of the United States, with the exception of one, yes. Most members of Congress throughout American history, yes. Most CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, yep. Okay? So that's your majority. Everybody else is considered a minority. Okay? Education. So you guys, some of you guys are applying to go to colleges right now. Yes? Or any of you guys trying to get in somewhere that's hard to get into? Where? Michigan. I'm going to be talking about the University of Michigan. Yes. Okay. Brody? Shoot for the stars, my friend. Shoot for the stars. Oh, I am. Yeah, I know. Hey, yeah, University of Michigan is a perfect example because it went to the Supreme Court. Now, it was the University of Michigan Law School. Okay. So at the University of Michigan, a lot of universities, they have a formula as to whether you're going to get accepted or not. Okay. So Michigan has a point system. Okay. And you want to get to 100 points, you get admitted to Michigan. So they're looking at did you take the SAT? Do they want you to take the SAT?
They didn't say. They didn't.
Okay.
It was ACT.
Okay. ACT, SAT. Because out east, they usually take the SAT. Okay. So this is worth 20 points. So if you do really well on it, you get 20 points. Okay. GPA, 20 points. Okay. You're at 40. Right? What are they taking into consider? Extracurricular, right? Yes. They look at that. Okay. And 20. Maybe have you write an essay. Did you have to write an essay? Okay. We're at 60. We'll go 10. Okay. And some other factors. At the University of Michigan, race, you can get 24.
Which race?
You're not getting 20. He's going to get maybe 5. See his red hair. You see what I'm saying? So if you're an African American male, you're going to get 20. Now, Connor may not get in because of what he looks like, because of his privilege. Huh? Okay, so let's find out. Supreme Court is University of Michigan Law School. White female student did not get in. She knew that she scored higher on the LSAT, which is what you take to get into law school. Okay? She sued. University of Michigan Law School defense. They do this at the regular school too, though. Okay, not just the law school. Defense was part of the education at the University of Michigan is a diverse campus. So those of you that live in a white bubble, when you go to the University of Michigan, you get to be in a diverse campus, which is what makeup of America is. You know what I mean? It's more diverse than a little white bubble. You know what I mean? So that's part of the education. Supreme Court bought that argument. So their standards are allowed to stay that way. However, other schools have their admissions process have been struck down. So like at the University of California, I forget which school it was med school. And they're going to allow in 100 medical students students into the med program that year. They said 16 of those spots will be reserved for minorities. This was struck down as unconstitutional. This is a quota. Quotas are illegal. So if we had a quota here at Bishop Carroll for the teachers, so you say, okay, 13% of the population is African American, 13% of your teachers need to be African American. 25% of the population is Latino, 25% of your teachers need to be Latino. That's a quota. They can't do that. And here's why. I'm going to be talking about this amendment all semester long. So the sooner you learn it, the better. The 14th Amendment comes right after the 13th Amendment. Wow. The 13th Amendment abolishes what? Slavery. Now, guys, this is 1866. Okay, 13, 14, 15, all in 1866. Okay, we'll learn these later on, but you're going to know the 14th now. Okay, so you had all these people that were seen as property prior to the 14th Amendment and Emancipation Proclamation, right? How do we classify these millions of people that were once property that now are free, living in our country? So what the 14th Amendment does, guys, is it defines what a U.S. citizen is. It defines citizenship. Which says if you are born in this country, as almost all the slaves that were free were born here, because we stopped the importation of new slaves in 1808. And the life expectancy of a slave was not very long, and we didn't import children slaves. So most of the people that had come from Africa, were born in Africa, were gone by 1866. They had passed away. So almost all the slaves were born here, which means they were citizens. And it also says if you are naturalized into this country, you go through the process of becoming a citizen, then you are a citizen. And all citizens have equal protection under the law. The law, beginning in 1866, is supposed to be colorblind. Was it? Have you heard of Jim Crow? So for almost 100 years, guys, after 1866, we did not fulfill the promise of the 14th Amendment. In 1954, with Brown versus Board of Education, they said separate is not equal. Finally beginning to dismantle Jim Crow and segregation. Okay? Which started with our schools and stuff, right? I mean, Truman did it with the military in 1948. He integrated the military. Okay? So, guys, we are still fulfilling the promise of the 14th Amendment and still fulfilling the promise of the Declaration of Independence that said all men are created equal, which includes you ladies. But not till the 19th Amendment for you. The 15th Amendment is going to give black and colored men the right to vote. Okay? So, quotas So you could have somebody here, so this is, what, 84? The 85th person here could have way higher scores than the number one person over here. It's mistreating people's rights. It violates the 14th Amendment. You follow me? So understand this. When it comes to education and affirmative action, yes, race can be a factor, but not an overwhelming factor. Michigan is one of the highest. So what a lot of states started doing was they would take the top 10% of every high school. University of California, if you're in the top 10% of your high school, you get a scholarship to go to the University of California school system. So Beverly Hills High School, top 10%, scholarships. They get in. Compton High in East LA, top 10% get scholarships to go in. You guys know Compton? Straight out of Compton, baby. Okay? Now, the top 10% of Compton shows up at UCLA as freshmen to go to college. Are they ready? Are they prepared for UCLA? Dude, my son that graduated from Bishop Carroll High School with the 3.0 is not ready for UCLA. What's happening? Most of these kids are dropping out. They're not graduating. Okay, so that's not a fix to the system. Now, what's wrong with getting minorities into college? There's nothing wrong with that. The goal of affirmative action is to try and improve and build a stronger middle class with our minorities in this country. And that is a positive impact for the whole society. Yes, it's a novel idea, but the way you do it can't violate this. You with me? Okay. So the Supreme Court has ruled on this. We've had this in place for a long time, since 1964. All right. The other two places, the workplace. Okay. I talked about you can't have quotas at Bishop Carroll and say you got to have this many of this and this and that as teachers, right? But most of this, we see this with like government jobs. Okay. So I'm gonna call on two here. Firefighters. Cops, people that work in the administrative state, that work for the government, state government, local government, national government, they tend to use affirmative action a lot, okay? Now, with firefighters, we have Sedgwick County Fire Department, we got Wichita Fire Department, we've got WPD, Wichita Police Department, we got the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Department, okay? Now, if you go around to the firefighting stations in around Kansas and Wichita, you're going to find a lot of minorities. You'll have some. You know the Barrientos family. JJ, he's firefighter. He's Hispanic, right? Okay. There's some. Okay, but when you want to become a firefighter, guys, you got to pass two tests. You're going to take two tests. One's a physical test. You see a lot of women firefighters? There's some. But one of the physical tests is, can you carry a body out of a burning building? That's one part of the test. The other part is the academic part, right? Do you know how to respond in different situations? Right? So you study for that, take the test, you do the physical test, you get a score. You got 2 scores. Now, New Haven, Connecticut, back in the 1990s, they had very few minorities on their firefighting force, okay? And so they wanted to get more minorities. Nothing wrong with that. But they threw out part of the test so that these African-American candidates could get the job over the white candidates. Well, what did the white candidates do? They sued, went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said you can't do that. 14th Amendment. Now, if you have a minority and a white male that score the same, can you hire the minority? Yes, and the government encourages you to do that. Okay? So there are limits to this. The third place we see this is with government contracts for businesses. So you guys drive across the north side, those bridges they're fixing, they've been fixing all year, right, on 235. Holy cow. Yeah, well, and then Kellogg, there's been construction on Kellogg ever since I've lived here, your whole life. Probably will be for the rest of your life, there'll be no construction on Kellogg, okay? Now, the city of Wichita doesn't build the bridge. They hire a company to do it. They offer bids, they send bids in. If you want this contract, send your bids in. You build bridges, you build bridges, you build bridges. The goal here is to help women-owned and minority-owned businesses get government contracts. Instead of the good old boy system, where, you give me campaign contributions, and when I get into city government, I give your business government contracts. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. How is a woman business or a minority-owned business going to get in the door when they don't even have a shop? Now, obviously, you got to prove that you know how to build a bridge, because we don't want people building bridges that don't know how to build bridges, because people are going to die, especially with all the earthquakes we're having in this state. Now, have you heard of Cornejo and Sons? That is like my first year teaching one of the daughters, Cornejo, I had in my class. Sweet, sweet girl. And then a lot of them went to Cape. Okay. But I think they sold their business for like a lot of money. Because Cornejo and Sons got a lot of government contracts, and they built up, hundreds of, concrete trucks, dump trucks, and excavators and all that. You know what I mean? They did very well. You ever walk on the sidewalk and you see where it says the name of the company that made the sidewalk and the date it was made? Okay, I walk a lot, so I see a lot of sidewalks. Okay.
Yeah, you see a lot of sidewalks run across country today.
So you see the date? Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
I can find the oldest one.
Yeah. So anyhow, the goal again here is to open the door for people. Okay. Now, we've had affirmative action since 1964. It's now 2020. So over 55 years, right? Conservatives tend to believe that they don't like this, okay, because they feel it's an unfair advantage, okay? If you go to University of Michigan, and let's say you get in, are you going to be looking at some of, say, the African-American students thinking to yourself, they only got in here because they're black? I'm not saying you would say that, but people say that. And that feeling is in people. Or what if you are one of the African-Americans that got into the University of Michigan? Did I only get in this institution because I'm black, or did I earn this? Will we ever be colorblind in this society? I think not. Have we made great strides since 1866? I'm going to be honest with you. In 2008, I did not vote for Barack Obama. Okay? But as a history teacher and a government teacher, I was really proud of my country that we had elected the first African-American president. I mean, there was a sense of pride in my country. Because you guys know there had to be a whole lot of white people that voted for a black man for president. That's a huge change from what we just see in the 1960s, guys. That's a massive change for the better in our country. We've made great strides. Affirmative action has helped a lot of people. Do we still need it? Is there still discrimination? Yes. Will there always be? Yes. White people, remember this. We are no longer a majority of people in this country. We are a plurality. We have the most, but not 51%. If we do not take care of the minority in this country, when we become the minority, what goes around comes around. Okay? So, I know there's a lot of divisive rhetoric today and so forth. Okay? Just stick with it. People are sane. Most people are sane. Some people are insane. Okay? But most people are sane. All right? It's going to be all right. So, was this something that you would like to see continued moving forward in America? Or is it time to say, let's treat everybody the same? Whatever your race, whatever your gender. You decide. Okay? All right, how much time do I got? That took a long time.
You got 15 minutes.
Sweet. Okay, let's go into welfare. Okay. All right. I have a slide I actually just want to put up just so you can see. Welfare. This is government, right? Okay. So most of you had history last year, right? You remember the dole? The New Deal. Okay, the first time we gave direct assistance to people, okay, usually people would go to charities, like churches would have charities, and you go to your neighbors for help, your family for help. Now the government's providing the help. This is where it started in the 1930s, okay? Now today, there are like 6 major forms of welfare, okay? Can anybody, what comes to mind right when you say welfare? Anything, what type? Huh? Obamacare? Yeah, somewhat. First thing that comes to my mind is like food stamps. Okay? These are the 6 major types of welfare. Okay? Medicaid is the most expensive. Medicaid is health care for the poor. But the largest recipients of Medicaid in the United States are the children of poor parents. Okay? This is a federally and state-funded program. So tax dollars from the state of Kansas, tax dollars from the federal government go to fund Medicaid. Okay? Temporary assistance for those in need. This is cash payments. Okay? Or what we referred to back at the time, the dole. Okay? Supplemental nutrition assistance programs. This is SNAP, or food stamps is what we would used to call it. Okay? Supplemental security income. This is for people falling on hard times as well. Housing assistance. A lot of times this is called like Section 8 housing. So you have government subsidized housing. I was reading about this today in preparation just to kind of go back over things. So like whatever your income is, if more than 30% of your income is going to pay for rent, you qualify for this, Section 8. Now, we do not have enough housing, Section 8 housing, for everybody that qualifies. So when there's an apartment building or a little duplex that comes open as Section 8 housing, there's a line of people waiting to get it. Follow me? Okay, so the government subsidizes your rent. All right. We talked about that in history, right? Where we apartment complexes, the projects, and stuff like that. Okay. Then the earned income tax credit. So if you are a family of 4 and you make less than $52,000 as a family of 4, you're going to get qualified for the earned income tax credit. So you will get a check. You'll get a refund of what you paid in taxes, except for Social Security and Medicare. Government will keep that, because you're going to get that back later, okay? But you'll get back the rest of the taxes you paid, and you'll get a check. So that $52,000 family of 4 will get a check for about $3,000. Earned income tax credit. When I was 22 years old, it was my first year out of college, and I only worked like half the year. I made like $8,000. Okay? I got a check from the government for like $1,200. Earned income tax credit. I should probably pay it back. Okay. So, started during the New Deal. By the time we hit 1964 in Lyndon Baines Johnson, the war on poverty, welfare started growing and growing and growing. Now, the most vulnerable of us in our society are single mothers. Okay? So at the time, we started to see more payments to single mothers. Like you get a check every month. You get food stamps, you qualify for a lot of this. Okay? In Hawaii, if you qualify for all the welfare programs, it comes at the cost of over $50,000. Now, if you're living in Hawaii and you work at McDonald's, you're not making $7.50 or whatever the minimum wage is. Probably making about $12 an hour at McDonald's in Hawaii. How many hours would you have to work in a year to make $50,000 at $12 an hour? You'd probably have to average like 60 hours a week. Why would somebody do that when they can qualify for $50,000 for free? The fact of the matter is they won't. Many people won't work 60 hours a week. Plus, a lot of these people are single, single parents. What are you gonna do with your kid? You guys are all Catholic. You believe in social justice, taking care of the poor, right? Does the question become, is the system too big? Does it do too much? Is it too easy to manipulate? Do people that could work not work because they can get this stuff? What they were telling single mothers back in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s was, if you have a child out of wedlock, we will send you a check. If you have another child out of wedlock, we will send you a bigger check. If you have another child out of wedlock, we will send you a bigger check. Don't get married. Because if you get married, there's a good chance you won't qualify because you have two incomes. So what began to happen was, Uncle Sam, or the U.S. government, began to replace the father in the home. This is a serious problem. Today, as we speak, 71% of all African American children are born out of wedlock without a father. 71%. Prior to these welfare programs, on average, African American marriages lasted longer than white marriages. Some people would say that welfare has destroyed the family in this country. When you don't have two parents in the home, statistics show it, guys. There's nothing, I got nothing against single moms or single dads, but the statistics bear it out. Your children have far fewer opportunities in life if you're a single parent. And so do you. But the government steps in and becomes dad. 1995, things got bad. 1995, they passed the Welfare Reform Act of 1995, and they put restriction on home welfare for the first time in decades. They said you cannot get welfare unless you are working. You cannot get welfare unless you're working or going to school to improve your skills, your lot in life. You cannot stay on welfare more than 5 years in your lifetime. No more than 2 years at any given time. In 2009, after the housing bubble, President Obama got rid of the work requirement nationally. Kansas still has it. In order to get welfare in Kansas, you have to be working or going to school. Now, you can't work too much, because if you make too much, you won't qualify. Any of you guys work retail? Dylan's?
It's like a small bookstore.
Okay. Any of you guys never worked at Dylan's? You guys 35? Okay, food stamps used to be like literally stamps. So like if you were in the grocery store going through the line and you were paying for your groceries with food stamps, you would get the stamp book out, give the clerk the stamps. The person standing in line behind you can see that. Okay, we don't use those anymore. We use EBT cards, which look like what? They look like credit cards. You swipe it. Okay, the stigma. Okay, food stamps is gone. When I was growing up, you would go to the government food center and get your government cheese and your government meat, and your government butter. You guys know Velveeta? chunk of cheese. That's what government cheese was like. It's pretty good. Okay, I had some friends that got government cheese, and that's pretty good stuff. Government cheese. Okay. Now you get the credit card. Now, who put the money on the credit card? I did. Okay. You ever see somebody on welfare driving a really nice car with really nice rims talking on an iPhone? Guys, the poor in this country have it way better than the poor in other countries. Wouldn't you say that, Henry? The poor in America have it pretty good. Poor in America have air conditioning and heat. Because if you don't have heat and you can't afford to turn on the heat, there's a program for that. Okay? For assistance for heating bills. Okay? We have a safety net. And we need a safety net. One of the, life's toughest questions is, why do bad things happen to good people? And hard times befall on people. We need a safety net, I think, as a society. How big should that safety net be? Is it too big? Is it about right? Does it need to be bigger? I mean, if you're feeling the burn, you know what that means. Obviously, you think it probably needs to be bigger. Okay, because you want free college, you want free health care, okay? You want it bigger. Okay? Medicaid expansion in Kansas is something that the Republican legislators have been fighting. If you expand Medicaid in Kansas to include more people, open it up to, you got your poor and then you got your little bit not as poor, let them get Medicaid. That costs more taxes for us in the state of Kansas to pay for that. Because it's funded by state taxes too. Okay. Kind of told you what it's, what it is. I know how you feel about society, how you feel about things. Should we reduce, make it harder to get welfare? Do you think people abuse the system? Keep it the same? You'd say no. Okay. You want more welfare programs? Say no. You think it's too much? Say yes. And that's where we'll end today. Are you having a hard time? See you guys tomorrow.